Hi, I'm Josh Ratliff. I'm the Professional Development Specialist for WVEIS, and I'm located at RESA 2, and I'm joined today with my good friend,
Mike McCormick, and I'm a TIS, a Technology Integration Specialist here in Lincoln County at Lincoln County High School.
Yeah, and today we're at Lincoln County High School to show one of our newer applications, and that's the Educator evaluation system. And I know this is the time of year everybody's getting geared up and they're putting in their self-reflections and their student goals and that kind of thing. So we're just going to walk very quickly through the menus and give you a little bit of exposure to this so that it will go a little bit smoother for you guys.
The Educator eval system is located in WOW.
Yeah, that's right. It's in WOW. And you probably already have a username and password for that, so it's a good spot to get to it. So you're going to go to wveis.k12.wv.us, and on the right-hand side, you're going to click the sign on to WOW. And when you do that, it'll load up to a screen. It's kind of like this, and then you're going to click on menus. Yeah, that's where all of your menu items, if you're taking attendance in WOW or self-reflections or that kind of thing.
Now we're logged into mine right now, and right now we have, I said that there's a self-administration, the attendance menu, student discipline system, but what we're looking for is all the way at the bottom.
All the way, yeah, go to the bottom. Okay, now it is important to point this out too. These menu items can be opened and closed. And it's as a convenience to you that you can close down menu items that you don't use very often. Sometimes we'll have people call in. They'll say, you know, I'm a teacher, but I don't have that menu item. It's not been assigned to me. So it could be that it's assigned to you and it's just that menu item is closed.
A lot of times if you see the plus sign, there's always more that can be dropped down. So if you click it, it'll drop down and there'll be a little minus there.
Yeah, so we'll do that now. We'll start at WVR, which is West Virginia Reporting, and then open that one, and then WVR 400, and then that's where you're going to find Educator Eval. So let me go ahead and click that, and we'll load it up. And while it's loading, we'll start by saying this. Each educator in the state has been assigned a progression, and that is based on your years of experience.
Okay.
So if I have been teaching in my first year to my third year, that's called the initial progression. If I'm in my fourth year or fifth year, I'm considered intermediate, and then 6 years and above would be the advanced progression.
Okay. So where do I find out what my progression is?
Well, that's a good question, because let's say I'm in my fifth year and I don't exactly remember, is this my fifth year, my sixth year, maybe I've only been teaching 4. So you could go here under progressions and just click on that, and it's going to load up and it'll tell you your name, your educator ID, your employee number, and then right here on the far right hand side it's going to say your progression. So for you that would be intermediate.
So what if my progression, what if I thought it was one thing and it's supposed to be something else? Is there a way to get that changed? Do we look, where we find that?
Yeah, that's easily changed. If there is some discrepancy there, let's say it's your 6th year and you can verify that with human resources, and then maybe it's just showing the wrong thing on there. You would just talk to the administrator in the building, because he or she is going to be the one that assigned that to begin with. Okay, so if it's just incorrect, you get that straightened out with him or her. They can easily change that on their screen, and then you can log back in and it'll show you in the right progression.
Awesome.
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. So you've been identified in the intermediate progression. We're going to drop down here under educators to intermediate progression. So once that loads up, I'm going to be given an opportunity to start with the self-reflection. Now, self-reflection will load up, and it's going to show you a series of standards, elements, and then these performance levels that are radio buttons, and you just click the one that you feel like you fall into the best.
Okay, so let's just take a look here at the first one, Curriculum and Planning 1.1. Teacher demonstrates a deep and extensive knowledge of the subject matter. We've got distinguished, accomplished, emerging. How do I know? How do I know which one of these I fall under?
That's a really good question, Mike. I'm glad that you asked that. So if I look over here to the far right hand side, I'm going to see that there's a rubric that is aligned to that element. So if I click on the rubric, watch what happens in the right hand side.
Oh, okay.
The rubric will populate over here, and I can use this rubric to help guide my answers for each of these elements.
And I see it's color coded, it's easy to read, yellow for distinguished, green for accomplished, and so on and so on. So some educators, I know, we've had some discussions in our team meetings and stuff, they have a really hard time clicking that distinguish button. And I know some of these people, we have some phenomenal people in this building who do a wonderful job, and I'm like, why aren't you clicking distinguished? I mean, you are definitely a distinguished teacher. You were top in your field at this.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think what's important there in terms of consistency across the whole state is that we let the rubric be the guide for that. And just because I choose distinguished doesn't mean that I've finally arrived at, that element and I don't have to work at it anymore. That's not what that means at all. It just means that in terms of our 4 performance levels, in alignment with the rubric, that's where I'll fall. And it doesn't mean that I can't still improve in that area, there's not still room for growth, and I shouldn't continue to exercise excellence in that. It just means that in terms of the 4 performance levels, that's where I fall in that category. And it takes the pressure off of you and I as educators, so we don't have to feel like, oh, we're bragging or whatever. No, you just use the rubric as a guide, and that will do 2 things. It takes the pressure off of us and provides a lot of consistency across the state.
yeah, I know a lot of people when they're looking at this, they're very modest people. Plus, they all follow that reflective educator's guide where there's always, like you said, there's more to
Something
do.
on
There's
the next
something
level.
that they can
Yeah.
improve on.
Right.
So people have a hard time with that, but we want the rubric.
That's right. Yeah, don't feel boxed in by that. Don't feel like if you choose, distinguish that you're somehow saying that there's no room for improvement. That's not what that means.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Awesome.
Awesome. So when you're done with that, just scroll down to the bottom, and there's a little spot down here at the bottom for the educator to add some comments if you need to make some notes on that, and then just hit the save button. And watch what happens when I click that. If I scroll back up to the top, it says self-reflection has been updated.
Cool.
Okay. So there is no back button.
So how do we get back to the...
Yeah, that's right. So if we need to navigate back to the place that we were, we're just going to come over here to intermediate progression, click that, and then it'll bring us right back to where we started, okay?
Now I see the sidebar is still there with the rubric. Is there a way to get rid of that? Does it disappear?
That is just to provide a little more real estate. Let me jump back here. Thanks for bringing that up too. Let me jump back into self-reflection. If this side pane is closed, it provides more real estate in the center of the screen. So if I'm on a small little netbook and this is how I'm doing my self-reflection, I may choose to close that and provide myself a little bit more room here to see what's written. The trouble is you have to remember that that's where your rubrics are going to populate. So if I click on one of these rubrics,
it's not going to pop back out.
That's right. I may get panicked and say, oh no, something's not working right. It's actually loading up fine. It's just loading up in the right-hand pane, and it can be opened and closed.
That's cool.
Yeah. So let's step back and we'll take a look at the next one, which is student goals. Let me just click on that, student goals. And it's going to populate here in the center of the screen again with lots of sections that you can read here in these descriptions and add student goals for each of these. Again, we've given an opportunity for text boxes, some check boxes down here, and at the bottom. When that's done, hit save. Any questions about that one?
No, that seems to be pretty straightforward.
It is straightforward. I do have, every now and then somebody will say, well, what's the best way to set goals for this or that? And there are a few different ways to do that. The State Department has provided some great resources for goal setting. I'm going to provide a link at the end of the show, so you can navigate straight to that URL that's on the screen.
There's also, I was thinking about this, what about talking with some of your co-teachers? You've got the curriculum team.
Yeah, even administrators will help you do
team.
that. Yeah. I'm just going to hit save at the bottom. It's very important to remember to do that. And again, I want to be notified at the top that the goals section was successfully added. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to show you this. And this
Click
is not
back on intermediate again.
Yeah, right. And there's a place to add evidence. Now, not every educator will have to add evidence. Okay, that happens in 3 different situations. One, if I choose distinguished, then I'm going to be asked to provide some evidence of that. Okay. The second area might be maybe the administrator, whoever's doing the evaluation, and the educator have selected 2 different performance levels.
Okay.
So we can add some evidence for each of those to try to determine where we're at. Okay. And then the third situation might be an unsatisfactory performance level. And if I'm the administrator in the building and I need to assign that, then they're going to ask me to provide some evidence that says, why is that teacher unsatisfactory?
Okay.
Okay.
That's awesome. And I also noticed here on the screen that as we've done these, we complete the self-reflection and the different goals, that the little red marks have disappeared.
Yeah.
So as you complete sections, they will no longer be highlighted in red. So
Yeah.
this sort of helps you gauge where you're at in the process.
That's good too, and the administrator can obviously track all that too to make sure that everybody's on track.
Cool.
Okay, well, that basically covers the educator evaluation system. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to the resources that are available at the bottom of the screen, and thanks for watching.